Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Thanks so much for tuning in again. This week's video is about picking. Picking on the guitar is a very weird but very interesting topic to talk about. The problem with the guitar, especially the electric or acoustic electric, but kind of the thing we use the pick for nowadays is that we don't really have a school. And by problem I mean that's kind of a curse and a blessing. We don't have really a school like other instruments do, which leads to a lot of technical insufficiency for many guitarists, but it also leads to vast creative output because there's so many ways and so many avenues you can go down to which create different sounds and different music, so to speak. If you compare us to the violin or the piano, for example, those are always the instruments I go back to. They have hundreds of years of very detailed technique, like on the piano, how to put your hand down, even how your shoulders are, how your whole body is when you play a note, how you hang into it. Same on the violin, the bow stroke, how you hold your bow, how you create a note. There's so much detail put on that in the first years of learning the instruments, and like not only the first years, throughout all your career, but you really start from basics. Even like on drums. The drum kit as we know it now is a fairly modern instrument as well, similar to the electric guitar. But for a lot of drummers, when they start out in America, my drum teacher told me that it's like the snare drum. It's this, like in Germany we call it kleine Trommel. It's the snare drum and rudiments for a year or longer till you really get it together, and then you go on to the kit. On guitar we don't have any of that. We usually learn from the neighbor's kid, from the older brother, from the TV, from recordings. Very rarely electric guitarists have like a really structured school, at least in my generation. Maybe it's changing over time, but in my generation and older people than me, we all kind of learned from many different sources, which is great for creativity, not so great for some of the technique stuff. What I want to talk about is not so much actually about the technical part of picking as such, how to hold the pick, because I have a couple of examples here. If you look at like three of the all-time greats, like I picked out here clips from like a George Benson, Pat Metheny and Jim Hall. If you look at George Benson in this clip, what he does, he kind of almost has his arm reached around the guitar. I don't know if this makes sense, and he plays like this a little bit. I heard that once from a teacher. It comes from actually how your hand wants to operate. If you look how most people pick, like me, normal picking position, and we do this, as soon as we get faster, often we get very tense because our arm is not inclined, like our how do you call this part? Our wrist is not inclined to move in this kind of way, okay? However, what our wrist is very much inclined to do is this way. Like if we flap it up and down, there it can move freely and easily. And that's kind of what George Benson is kind of doing. And a lot of those old school guys, they kind of go, instead of having it here, they go a bit around and almost do that movement. There's still a lot of guitarists my age who learn this technique now because, especially with speed, it actually makes your hand a bit more free and can help you a lot with that sort of stuff. The next thing I want to show you is the complete opposite. If you look at Pat Metheny, how he holds the pick in this clip here. You see, the way he holds the pick is very different. He holds it like almost how I tell my students not to hold it when they're kids. He holds it almost between two hands, I think, if I've seen it right. And it sticks very much out. It's very different to how I would hold the pick, but it's a similar sized pick. It's a big pick, and he does it like that. Completely different, but amazing. If you look at Jim Hall, in the last clip here, Jim Hall does a similar thing to George Benson. My friend Owen, he once said Jim Hall sometimes looks like he grew out of the guitar or the guitar grew out of him because he's kind of like a tree arching around. Jim Hall sometimes does the extreme version of the George Benson where he really digs into the thing and goes around, especially if he sits down playing. So you see, those three guys are all amazing in their thing, and they pick completely different. So first of all, if you're worried about your picking, don't freak out. There's not one secret that you're missing out on. There's like a million different ways, and if you practice long enough, your way will work in some way. What I want to talk today is a very different way. It's more about the ways of picking. You maybe heard words like alternate, hybrid picking, sweep, economy picking. I don't really want to talk about any of them today because there's books out there, you can learn them. You should know a little bit about all of them probably. When I talked to Lage Lund in a lesson about picking and asked him, what do you think about all these, and I came with all these words, techniques, and he said, don't worry too much about it. He thinks at the base of everything is a good alternate picking. You have to be fluent going up and down with the pick on one string or skipping strings, and really being kind of free in that regard, and everything else comes from that. Of course, when you want to play a lick like you need the sweep, and then you need alternate picking and all the same. If you sometimes want to play big arpeggios or scale, you need economy picking. What I want to talk about today is something completely different. It's more picking related to the beat and picking related to time. My very first teacher in college, Florian Endele, he showed me something that kind of stuck with me for quite a while, and I forgot about it, and it's not the way I'm playing now, and it's not the way you will play, but it's a good thing to practice, and it's a good thing to go back. He showed me this thing that the downstroke and the upstroke in your pick is related to the downbeat and the upbeat in the tune you play, okay? We know that from strumming. Some people, when we strum funk, there's this 16th motion going on, and we only play kind of the accents or the notes we want, but we always relate it to the grit. We always with the down-up grit, and you play certain things only with an upstroke, certain things only with a downstroke. The same thing applies here to our picking, and mainly we're talking about quarter note and 8 notes. In swing jazz and bebop jazz, for the most part, that's the pulse of the tune. Of course, we have 8 note triplets and 16 notes double time, whatnot, but like for the bass, da-ba-doo-ba-da-ba-doo-da. Terrible scanning. But like for that bass kind of pulse, the bass language, bass vocabulary is 8 notes and quarter notes, okay? Here, if you have 4 quarter notes in a bar, he would pick, or practice to pick, 4 downstrokes. Okay, simple enough. If you have 8 notes in the same 4/4 bar, he would go up and down and up and down and. Okay, that's very similar to like a snare drum, kind of rudiment, right, left, beat, offbeat, beat, offbeat. It goes even more towards a drumming thing if you can kind of mix quarter notes and 8 notes. Then you would have here in example number 3, you would have down, down, up, down, up. That's like 1, 2, and 4, and. You can do that with any kind of written material. You can write your own lines, or you can do what I did. He took a solo. I think according to an interview, it's the first jazz Jamal ever heard, and kind of got stuck with him. It's 2 choruses of Charlie Christian solo over Grand Slam. And I have the first chorus here in this example transcribed for you. And there's a couple of more rules, because right now we're dealing down and up strokes with down and up beats. That's fair enough. But also what a lot of people kind of don't want to sound is kind of like this Pat Martino sound. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but a lot of people don't want to have this. Not that Pat Martino sounds like that, he sounds amazing. Just constant picking. People want to have a little bit of legato. So what he gave me as an exercise is do downstrokes on the downbeats, upstrokes on the upbeat. But if you have 2 8 notes or more of 8 notes in a row, you can use a hammer-on a pull-off if they're on the same string. However, only once. Not that we have like something, if you have F, G, F as notes, for example, he doesn't want you to do like a complete kind of legato line. He wants you to do 1. Okay, and if you look at that chorus, if you do that very slowly with the pickup, then the whole thing would kind of sound like this. So let's try this one more time, just because I was listening to the clock at my own time, and then the clock gave me the time, and I think I've let it pretty badly out of time. Let's try it once. Let me put here a metronome on for you, so you can really figure out what's happening rhythmically. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. that's the idea. I hope I did it all correct here. I will see in the edit.
Little hello from the edit, and you didn't get it all correct. You played bar 6 and 8 note late, and if I remember correctly, that's also the bar I constantly messed up back in 2012. So 8 years later, still not a step further.
The idea, you get a really nice sound with that. For once, you get a nice sound because you have a mix between picking and legato, and you have some rules to apply that as an exercise. But this exercise is really not about getting you to play in this way when you improvise. This exercise is about, especially if you're maybe starting to learn jazz, you might be struggling with the feel and the vocabulary. This exercise is really to get a connection between your picking hand and the beats of the bar. In jazz and improvisation, it's really important to know the sound internally of the sound of an upbeat compared to a downbeat, the sound of starting at different parts in the bar, all of that kind of stuff. So much to learn. But like, this really helped me as a bloody beginner in first year of college with no clue of jazz. It really helped me to get a grasp on that 8-note feel and that language. So I hope that made somewhat sense and I got it across. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you stay safe, and I hope I see you next week with another video. Okay, take it easy. Bye.